Day 4 of the 2025 US Open just wrapped up, and I'm going to discuss some interesting second round matches that I saw today. And let me start with Djokovic. How many times have we seen Djokovic struggle physically and then recover in a match? That's an ability that is remarkable. In the first set against Svita, Djokovic looked dead on the changeover. He was absolutely exhausted. And similar to the first round match against Tien, he was struggling in the rallies as well. He did not play a good first set at all, making some uncharacteristic mistakes. But Djokovic is so good at recovering in matches, which is something that he deserves credit for. He often gets criticized where people think that he's faking these physical problems, but it makes absolutely no sense to put yourself in a hole like that on purpose and fake physical problems and then lose a set just to come back later. That makes absolutely no sense. No, Djokovic struggles physically in these matches, but he has this incredible ability to recover, and he did just that against Svita and ended up winning this match very comfortably in 4 sets. Now, looking ahead for Djokovic, he plays Cam Norrie, which will be a tricky opponent, but Djokovic plays Norrie well, and I don't see him going out in the third round. We can expect Novak to get better the deeper he goes in this tournament. Now, I just listened to a very interesting interview with Djokovic on the Jay Shetty podcast, and Djokovic shared some very interesting things. Djokovic was asked about how he handles losses, and he said he had some really difficult ones. He cried many times after matches. But what he said that made a lot of sense to me was the following. He doesn't want to talk to anyone after he loses the match. He needs solitude. And he doesn't want any chit chat, any small talk. He doesn't want anyone to console him or try to pump him up. He just wants to be alone. And the reason why he wants this makes a lot of sense because Djokovic said that when you are in this crazy emotional state after losing a match, you're not going to make rational decisions. So you're better off going for a walk, going out in nature, and just cooling yourself off and being alone. And after you have done that, however long this might take you, with a clear head, now you can discuss how you're going to proceed with your tennis, discussing this with your loved ones or your coaching staff. So this is something that makes complete sense to me. And it's somewhat counterintuitive because I think a lot of people would interpret this as negative, someone being completely alone and disheveled after a match. But I think that's the natural thing that a lot of players do, and they fight against that. But after I listened to this interview with Djokovic, I understand now that it's okay to be alone after a match and clear your head completely by yourself. And it might help you make better decisions on how to proceed after you have cooled off. Now, let's discuss Carlos Alcaraz. This is some of the best tennis I've seen him play early in Grand Slams. In today's second round match against Bellucci, Alcaraz played even better than in the match against Opelka. Flawless tennis, 6-1, 6-0. The third set was 6-3. Bellucci was playing better for sure. He wasn't playing his best tennis in the first 2 sets for sure, but on the other hand, Carlos Alcaraz wasn't giving him any mistakes. He wasn't giving him any room to breathe. This was very much a Sinner-like performance from Alcaraz, absolutely dominating Bellucci. And I'm going to say it again, this is a new Alcaraz, a more consistent Alcaraz, and one that's going to drop sets to lower ranked players less and less as his career continues. He's building consistency in his game, and I discussed this in my prediction video. I believe that the only guy that can beat Sinner is Alcaraz, and I do believe that Alcaraz can beat Sinner on any surface, including hard court. He's done it many times before, and these guys are so even this year. They're even in the way they're advancing through the first 2 rounds, absolutely dominating the other guys. Of course, Sinner only played one match. He's going to play tomorrow his second one, but I expect Sinner to have a little bit more of a test from Popyrin, who interestingly took out Djokovic last year. So let's now talk about the match of the day for me, one of the highest levels that I've seen at this year's US Open, and that was Rune against Struff. And Struff is one of my favorite players. To me, he plays old school tennis. He serves and volleys a lot. I made a video about Struff's serve and volley a couple of years ago when he made that final in Madrid where he lost to Alcaraz. That was an amazing tournament. And interestingly, Struff plays Alcaraz really well. And the reason why Alcaraz struggles against Struff is because Struff doesn't give him a lot of rhythm. He rips the return and he tries to come in on a lot of serves. And even out of a rally, Struff is looking to get to the net. So he knows how to break Alcaraz's rhythm. But what's so interesting that despite phenomenal results from Struff and having the ability to take out or play close matches against the best players in the world, Struff has been struggling a lot as of late. His ranking had dropped outside the top 100 earlier this year, and I've talked about his ranking drop when I discussed Struff's run into the third round at Wimbledon. But I thought that the Wimbledon tournament would give Struff a lot of confidence that he was going to go on a bit of a roll. He started losing again, and he even lost to Navona in the first round of qualies in Cincinnati. A match that I didn't think Struff would lose because Navona is more of a clay court specialist. So that's the confusing thing with Jan Lennart, that he's up and down. But when he catches a good day, he is capable of beating the best players in the world. And even someone like Alcaraz struggles against him. That's how good Struff is. And Rune last year lost in the first round to Nakashima. I made a video about it, and Rune did not play a good match in the first round of the US Open last year. But I gotta say, even though Rune is out again in the second round, he only improved by one match at the US Open. He played well. There's really not much Rune could have done. He was fighting hard. I thought that his body language was very positive throughout the match. And this match came down to a few points here and there. And the way Struff played at 5-all in the fifth set, that return game where he broke Rune and then holding that serve game at 6-5, that was such unbelievable tennis, such confident tennis. Again, it's mind-boggling to me why Struff is ranked outside of the top 100. Hopefully, he's going to find himself in the top 100 by the end of the year, maybe even after this tournament. But he has a big hurdle to overcome in the third round, and that's Frances Tiafoe, who plays really well at the US Open. And what I found interesting in the match against Dam is that similar to Struff to some degree, not really because Dam is ranked in the 400s, but I made a video about the Martin Dam serve a couple of years ago. One of the best serves in the world, even though this guy is ranked in the 400s. That's how good his serve is. The fact that he's lefty, he's very tall, and the fact that he can hit that lefty slice that curves a lot makes him very dangerous. But despite that, Martin Dam hasn't been winning that many matches. And with that ranking, you can't even get into a challenger main draw. But I was happy to see that Dam made it through the qualies. He won the first round, and he played a phenomenal match against Frances Tiafoe. Now, the problem with Dam is that while he is a pretty good baseliner, he does make a lot more mistakes than what we see from the guys in the top 100. So he does spray the ball a little bit more, and that's due to some footwork mistakes. So what often happens with Dam is that when his serve comes back very deep from the returner, he's often stuck. Not really in no man's land, but he's kind of stuck just a few steps inside the baseline, and he's forced to hit these half volleys. So if Dam can improve his footwork, I think he's going to get more consistency into his ground strokes. And I do believe that he can be a very dangerous player on tour. I'm going to be honest with you, I follow tennis very closely, and I'm aware of some of these names that I'm going to read you, but I've never seen these three guys play. And let me list them. I've never seen Jerome Kim play, and he's in the third round. He's going to play Fritz, and he took out Nakashima in 5 sets, 7-6 in the fifth. An incredible player, a very powerful game. He's ranked 175 in the world, basically a challenger player. And it just goes to show you how strong these guys are at the challenger level. The fact that this guy is able to make it into the third round of the US Open is not a fluke, because take a look at Hugo Blanchet, who took out Menchik 7-6 in the fifth again. This guy is ranked 184 in the world. Again, a challenger player being able to take out a young superstar in the second round of the US Open. It just shows you how deep tennis is and how good these guys are that are coming out of the qualifying. How about Rafael Collignon? I've never seen him play either. He's ranked 107 in the world, and he beat Casper Ruud in 5 sets, 7-5 in the fifth. Another phenomenal player. This just goes to show you how tough professional tennis is, and we're seeing similar things on the WTA Tour. Not quite this extreme. I still think there's a discrepancy between ATP and WTA regarding depth, but the WTA Tour, compared to some previous decades, is now far deeper than it's ever been. And this leads me to the next point. In my video about Eala a few days ago, I talked also about Chen. I talked about Fonseca, and there were a lot of fans of these players in my comments, and I can see the excitement. And I know a lot of you guys that support these players are disappointed that they all went out. Fonseca lost to Mahach in straight sets. Eala lost in straight sets, and Chen lost in straight sets as well. Now, as I've been saying in a couple of my videos this week, the times of a young player, teenager, coming out of nowhere and winning a Grand Slam, those days are over because of the depth of both the ATP and the WTA Tour. Players now need longer to make it to the top. And I'm not so sure about Chen because I didn't know of her prior to this tournament. This is the first time I've seen her play. And I am very impressed for sure. But I can speak on Fonseca and Eala because I've seen those two players a lot. And I am very impressed with their level. But like I've been saying in many of my videos, their development is more of a marathon and not a sprint. It might take a few years until they reach the top of the game. And it is quite possible that they'll never reach the top of the game. You never know. But for sure, both of these players have amazing potential. But you, as a fan of them, don't be disappointed. You just need patience. And I do think that both Eala and Fonseca had a good tournament, actually. There's no shame for Fonseca to lose to Mahach, who's an unbelievable player. And Fonseca won a match, and so did Eala by taking out Towson. So these two players are developing just fine. And the important thing is that the ranking goes up. Now, it doesn't have to skyrocket upwards, but as long as the ranking is going up and there's a positive trend in their development, these players are doing just fine. Let's see what happens.